Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Xbox Casuals, the Xbox podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Derrigan. Alongside me, as always, is the Space Explorer Supreme, Josh Finney.
Oh, man. I don't even know if that begins to sum up the last 10, 12, however many days it's been that we've had with Starfield. 12 days, I guess?
Yeah, I know. It's been wild. I've actually been prioritizing this game so we could talk about it today.
It's been wild. Yeah, that wild is the only word that I have to describe the game right now.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. So I guess we should just get right into it. Today's show is going to be a little different than normal shows. The majority of the show is going to be us talking about Starfield. But you know, there are some news stories that we should probably talk about, but the majority of it's going to be Starfield. We're going to do a spoiler-free discussion for what do you say, like 10 minutes, and then
I'd say the first chunk of it will be spoiler-free, and then we'll let you know when we're going to switch to full spoilers.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to put a timestamp in the episode to make sure that once we start spoilers and end spoilers and go into news, that you guys can jump to that if you would like. But that's your warning. Josh, you're clearly enjoying the game.
Yeah, that was kind of an awkward pause there, like a pregnant pause. I'm really loving it. I mean, if I had to like kind of sum up the game, I do agree with the reviewers who say the game starts out slow. There is no question to me that the opening mission did not really grab me, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. Am I about to not like this game? And then I got to the point where you have to fight the pirate captain on the roof, and I threw the grenade as soon as I came out the door. I had it prepped and ready to go, and I threw it. And I got the same thing everybody else who's done it did, where he starts trying to talk to you, and the grenade lands while he's talking to you.
Yeah.
And just blows his whole crew up. That was pretty great. And that was the moment that I was like, okay, this is going to be a lot like Fallout, I think. Yeah. The first couple Constellation missions also didn't grab me.
Yeah.
Where the game clicks for me, and I mean, we're not going beyond Act 1 in this spoiler-free discussion. He's one of the first companions that you meet, one of the first members of Constellation. When you go on the mission with Sam.
Yeah, that's the one I just completed.
Aquila City. That is where the main quest started to open up for me. Mm-hmm. And then after you have completed like those first 3 missions that you're given, mm-hmm. you're sent on a mission by a dude named Vladimir. Mm-hmm. And the temple that he sends you to is where the game blew wide open for me. Yeah. And I went, oh, okay. And I just like, for lack of better terminology, I just fucked off and explored after that.
Yeah.
I went and did a ton of side quests. I kept hearing about Neon, so I found out where Neon was and went there and did all these quests on Neon. Mm-hmm. I started learning how to upgrade my starship. I started working on upgrading guns, just exploring around. And I'm really glad that I did it when I did, because Act 2 of the story, so much of it like forces you to explore. It wants you to explore. But I think ultimately the game is once you get into the main quest, I know everybody's mileage is going to vary. I'm a lot higher on the main quest line than others are. Gene Park in the Washington Post described it as his favorite campaign since Oblivion for a Bethesda game. I have to agree. I mean, not that I think people have always joked like that the main quest is like really like the most lackluster thing in a Bethesda game, but I don't think that's true at all. Mm-hmm. I think that Fallout 4 ends really poorly, but I think like 3/4 of it is pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that Fallout 3 is a really beautiful story about searching for your father. Skyrim's a little janky. Okay. Like the beauty of Skyrim was like a medieval fantasy game where you literally could do anything. Oblivion, beautiful main story.
Yeah.
This is my favorite overall Bethesda story and game since Oblivion, but I don't know if that necessarily makes it the best. Starfield is a really complicated game, but the main story, if you give it time, I think with the turns it takes that I was not expecting, the end actually ends up being a really beautiful love letter to exploration, to the question why, and honestly to like, to the great beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And that may sound like really cheesy. It sounds a little cheesy saying it, but like that's probably the best way I can sum it up is that's where the main story left me at the end. I think that the beauty of the game is found in its factions. The faction quest lines, I mean, just quests in general, are done really, really well in this game for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I found that when I was talking to people and when I was doing quests and I was with, temporary party members and I was doing stuff on the ship and talking with my companions, that's when I was most engaged with the game. When I had to go explore planets and I had to go like, for example, there's some planets you land and you have to walk like 1,000 meters to get to your destination. And it is exhausting and grueling and awful.
Yeah.
Doing that without any kind of land vehicle, like honestly, like if I had to pick out like my two biggest criticisms of the game, no land vehicles is awful. I thought we learned our lesson in Mass Effect. Because even the Mako would have been better than nothing.
Yeah.
No land vehicles is just baffling. I have to assume that that's going to be one of the expansions. And then number two, the only 4 companions to ever get any sort of death are your Constellation teammates, and they all have sticks up their butts about everything.
Yeah.
They don't like it when you do anything that could be off the straight and narrow. That is particularly really frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, some people want to play, they want to play as a member of Crimson Fleet. Others want to play as a member of SysDev or as, an espionage main, with Ryujin, and like all great quest lines, but it's really frustrating that you have to leave your companions behind or you have to kick them off your ship in some instances. Otherwise, they're going to sit there and pout and be mad at you about certain decisions that you're making.
Yeah.
That is insanely frustrating. That's a morality complex that we didn't even see in Oblivion, or not in Oblivion, excuse me, in Fallout 4. In Fallout 4, yeah, you could stray from the straight and narrow and like, yeah, your teammates would get upset with you, but unless you did something like particularly heinous, they probably weren't screaming at you about it. And even then you could like talk them off the ledge.
Yeah.
Here, that the Piper disliked that meme. The Sarah Morgan is like the new Piper meme, I think, because she doesn't seem to like anything, which is hilarious considering that's you only get 4 romance choices in the game too, and it's those 4 Constellation members.
Yeah.
It's particularly frustrating because you want to build a bond with your crew, but you don't want to be around these people.
Yeah.
Like you can hire other crew, but early on in the game, especially, it's really expensive to do that. It's like 36,000 credits. You can talk on like 18 in some cases, but a lot of them are really expensive. The ones that'll have the skills you actually want.
Right.
The menus are really bad.
Oh yeah, they're terrible, man.
I actually think when you hit the start screen, I actually think that menu isn't bad. It's when you get into the sub menus, like the star map isn't that bad to me personally. The missions menu and the UI for the inventory are both pretty rough, and the UI mod that I've seen does not fix it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't like how everything is just in like this. I don't know, man. The inventory's pretty bad. The
quest log is abysmal.
Yeah, dude. Like, okay, so when you first started playing, did you have the issue where all of your quest markers would pop up?
No.
No. Oh man, dude.
I had the issue of I couldn't understand why clicking A did not track something. I have to hit X, and you can't even hit it on the quest. You have to open up the quest, and you have to go to the specific step and highlight it.
Yeah.
It is needlessly complicated, and I have to think that they're going to patch this and fix this up.
They have to, dude, because like I had the issue where like every single one of my quest markers would be on my map at the same time.
Oh my god, I can't
even if it wasn't highlighted, and I had to dig through like 5 separate menus to undo that. And like it's in a completely separate menu from like toggling the missions on and off.
I'm very happy that has never happened to me accidentally or on purpose.
It was awful.
Man.
Like when I got to New Atlantis, I picked up like a bunch of side quests, right? And all of a sudden I had like 9 or 10 blue markers on my screen, and they were all for separate quests.
So I have noticed you can track more than one activity, which are like the go talk to this person type things.
Yeah.
But I just figured I had to turn those off because I don't care about most of that stuff.
No, I had to dig. I had to dig through the menus, and the option was turned on. Have all quest markers on screen, and I'm
That's
like,
weird.
no, I don't want this.
Was not even aware that was an option.
Yeah, it was just
It's
on for me.
the game unapologetically does not hold your hand.
Yeah,
Which is fine, but at least give me like a little bit of a tutorial on like how to like upgrade my ship, and like that you need to like go through, you have to upgrade certain skills on the skill tree to be able to do certain things and to fly certain ships. And it's so frustrating at times. Like the game, I appreciate how it just literally lets you do whatever you want, but you got to tell me how to do basic functions of the game too.
yeah.
The fact that stealth is something you have to actually build into, and you can't just have the stealth skill automatically, is hilarious. You cannot sneak in this game unless you purchase that skill. You can't pickpocket unless you've done that either.
Yeah, I was waiting to like pickpocket somebody. I'm like, why can't I just pickpocket somebody?
I literally I was like, I can't believe that this is happening, and I looked at the skill trees and I was like, sure enough, you have to do that. So there's just, it's a bunch of like little things that build up into bigger things. The more that you play the game, you're like, oh my god, this is just, I've seen the encumbrance complaint too, and maybe I'm alone on this island. I don't personally share that complaint.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the devil's advocate reasoning for it. One, we're in a future that Bethesda says that they're imagining this to be like 300 something years from the present day.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that we can't carry a ton of shit.
Yeah.
Number two, you will almost always have a companion with you that you can load up. 3, if you're within 500 meters of your ship, you can transfer stuff to your ship, to and from it.
Yeah.
Also, like, this isn't Fallout 4. Stop picking everything up. Like, seriously, just stop picking everything up. You cannot break everything down in this game, which is another very strange choice, but they don't really emphasize the base building to me.
Yeah.
I have one, but it doesn't feel like they're ever really emphasizing it that much. I know as you get
part of a side thing though, like a side activity or whatever.
I mean, it's a whole side game essentially. Mining minerals and things like that. I have a nice little outpost built. I thought it was going to be way more important than it actually ended up being. I just keep everything on my ship.
Yeah.
I also have a really big ass ship though at this point, so I don't know. I've seen some people complain about the space combat. I actually have really grown to like the space combat.
Yeah.
It's pretty simplistic, but if you've played a game like I don't know, like Battlefront ever, like Star Wars Battlefront, this is basically the same thing.
Yeah.
I like that you can take like energy cells and put them into different things. So like I have my cannons, all my weapons turned up like really high, and like my speed and shields. I took everything off of grav because I'm never jumping away from anything.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll let it count down like the 6 seconds. In other words, I'm driving a tank through space.
Yeah.
So I enjoy like that aspect of it. I think there's so much here though. It's weird because I feel like we got like 5 games in one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's neither a compliment or a detraction, but it feels like we got 5 games in one. And if you want to go be the person who surveys and explores the unknown planets, go for it. You're going to be pretty miserable, but go for it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be the person who just quests, go for it. You want to do a pirate simulator, go for it. Like, there's so many things you can do. You shipbuilder extraordinaire, go for it. Like, there's so many things you can do here. And yet there's so much room for improvement on a sequel.
Yeah.
I guess to like kind of wrap up my spoiler-free thoughts, if I were to slap a score on this, I would probably hover around a 9. I have a really hard time going higher than that because of the issues that I laid out. Like, it sounds like small stuff, but it really did build up. I have probably close to 50 hours in this game, if not a little bit more. I'm right around the 50-hour mark. And these things just became more and more pronounced. Like, I try to avoid going to planets where I don't have to explicitly go for a quest at this point, and I'm having a way better time.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to explore every single planet or do every little activity of go talk to this person, go talk to that person, you are going to burn yourself out in this game.
Yeah. Well, the people that are going to do that, I assume, are the people who've been playing Skyrim for 10 years, right? Like,
Right. Like when Phil said that he sees people playing this for 10 years like they did Starfield, I now understand why he said that.
mm-hmm.
I would say to anybody who plays this, don't sprint through the main quest, but kind of like make it a priority. I think by the time you get to like level 30-ish, you should consider like wrapping it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because by then you've gotten enough of a taste of the game. I think I jumped to New Game Plus when I was like level 34 or something.
Yeah.
I started up New Game Plus, and then I actually went back to my old save because I saved right before the point where you start New Game Plus.
Yeah.
So I can just like kind of do whatever I want to now on my
Mhm.
old save, and I will eventually take what I'm doing now into New Game Plus now that I've seen what I can do.
Yeah, but the reason why you didn't do New Game Plus is there's a lot of stuff that doesn't transfer over, you said, right?
There's a lot of stuff that does not. So if you're going to do New Game Plus, something, and I encourage I've never done this for a game. I encourage every single person to do New Game Plus because that is the real Starfield, in my opinion. That's the real game, is New Game Plus. It is quite literally, it feels like a brand new game. We'll go into it in the spoiler section. All of your perks and your attributes carry over. You keep your level, but you lose all your credits, all your ships, and all your gear.
That feels like, man, especially the ships, because they cost so much, and like if you build cool ones, like,
yeah, that was a particularly frustrating thing for me, was losing my ships.
I almost wish they would let you carry over blueprints of the ships that you want to keep, almost. And like,
I agree, but I mean, like, I lost all my credits, all my digipicks, all my upgraded armor and weapons. It's frustrating, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And the people who are going to go and play extensively in New Game Plus, this isn't going to bother them.
Yeah, especially like, I mean, like you said, I mean, a lot of streamers and a lot of reviewers said go do the campaign first and play New Play Plus how you plan on playing it, right? Even you, like you just said that, like maybe those people aren't carrying ships over or a lot of credits, or you know what I mean?
I'm glad that I'm doing the faction storylines. Mm-hmm. That's part of the reason why I went back, is I had only done one faction storyline. Mm-hmm. And there's a moment when you're about to start New Game Plus that I was like, okay, I want to go do all the factions before I come back to this. But yeah, I highly encourage, like, it makes sense, like what Pete and Todd were saying for weeks, like, when you beat the game is when the game really starts. Like, it does truly feel that way. I've already got ideas kicking around for what a sequel looks like, things that beyond like adding land vehicles and stuff, like things that need to be added in DLCs or in future games. I just hope I'm not in my 50s when they release the next one. Because if the sequel to Elder Scrolls is any indication, I could have kids and they could graduate from high school by the time we get a new one of those. So
yeah, because don't forget, Fallout 5 was quietly announced in there too somewhere.
I'm still of the personal opinion that they're going to make a studio just to deal with Fallout, but that's another time and discussion. Corey, do you have any spoiler-free thoughts before we move into spoilers?
I mean, there's. Let me see. No, let's just get in the spoilers because I can kind of integrate what I want to talk about into that. So
that's fair.
Everybody who's listening, this is the spoiler zone, so we'll give you like 3 seconds to get out. Get out. Okay, Josh, go ahead.
All right. So, spoiler thoughts. The directions that I'm just going to jump right in. The main story gets so much better after you get past those opening missions. Mm-hmm. You hit the point where Vladimir sends you to a temple, and you explore the temple in this anomaly, and you get force powers, essentially. Mm-hmm. And you proceed to find these temples throughout the game. I think I found like 12 or 13 of them by the end of my playthrough. I think you can keep finding them infinitely. It's just he'll stop giving them to you. You find them at random on planets. But for each one you discover, you get a new power. All those powers do carry over to New Game Plus also, mm-hmm. which is really cool. When I started a New Game Plus, they actually gave me a few temples to go find, and they had brand new powers. that I
Oh,
hadn't
nice.
gotten in my first playthrough. Yeah, so that was really cool. And it suggests to me that you're probably gonna have to do a couple resets to get all the powers. But there's a particular moment, and I would characterize this as like the beginning of. I would classify this mission as the end of Act 1. If getting the powers is the end of Act 1, the next mission is the beginning of Act 2 when you encounter the Starborn for the first time.
Yeah.
That is something I did not expect. I kind of had a feeling we would find some sort of like futuristic race or like an alien race to encounter, maybe. I didn't expect this though. The Starborn, really becomes the main mystery of the game. Who are the Starborn? They're firing on you, they're attacking you, and when you're in Act 2, you're doing all this exploring and whatnot. And at the end of Act 2, you hit what I think is the emotional high point of the game. You are on New Atlantis. You have assembled what you believe to be all of the artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're assembling them, I genuinely thought I was getting close to the end of the game. I was like, oh wow, that was kind of a lackluster main quest. And then an SOS comes in from the Eye. And when you're there doing that mission, they tell you that so and so is wounded badly. I later found out this changes on every playthrough. Whoever it is who you've traveled with the most.
Mm. That's interesting.
And so naturally, the way I'm playing my character is I'm going to go save my friends. And so I go to leave the lodge, and I get stopped by a companion on my way out. The person who had been traveling with me for the last mission that was assigned to me by Vladimir. They try to stop me. And it was at this point I really thought long and hard. And I was like, I thought about it and went, well, all my other companions are up there on the Eye. They probably need some help down here protecting the artifacts. And when I chose to stay, all of a sudden you see the old man being like levitated and choked. What? And you get into this gunfight that takes you throughout the lodge, the well, and the spaceport. And it is one of the coolest sequences of the whole game. It is you and your companion basically escorting the defenseless members of Constellation to the ship to evacuate the city. And it's this battle that takes place all throughout New Atlantis. This guy who just calls himself the Hunter. You never get his name. He just calls himself the Hunter. Basically gives you his gun at the end of the fight and is like, yeah, you're a worthy adversary. I'll see you around.
Jeez.
Basically tells you where to meet him.
Yeah.
If you want answers. You get up to the Eye and you find that your companion is dead. That had been wounded. I went and looked this up because I wanted to see if everybody else got the same result I did. Apparently, the game takes the two companions you've traveled with the most, and you have to pick which one you want to save. If you go to the Eye, the person who tries to stop you in the lodge is the one who ends up dead. So in my playthrough, Sam is dead.
Very Mass Effect.
Very Mass. There is actually no way to avoid it.
Yeah. There's
no way to avoid a crew member dying. This is part of the whole philosophy. You cannot see everything on one playthrough. So Act 3 really becomes about getting revenge and taking the fight to the Starborn. However, when you go to the rendezvous point to meet with this hunt, you do some other quests, and partway through Act 3, you go to meet up with the Hunter. And when you board his ship, there's somebody else there who calls himself the Emissary. I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting the Emissary's face to be of the companion that I lost.
Oh.
It is at this point, and Corey, I know you're not to this point, so I'm very sorry for spoiling the game.
It's fine, dude, it's fine. You know I don't really care about spoilers.
When the word multiverse was used, I just set my controller down for a second because
in the game,
the multiverse is New Game Plus.
Oh.
It was at this point I realized why people were saying you have to play New Game Plus. The goal stops becoming the goal is still to gather the artifacts, but it's for you to enter something called the Unity. And the Unity is essentially like the heart of the universe. Think the heart of the island from Lost, everybody. That's the territory we've gone to here. You have your choice if you want to fight with the Hunter or fight with the Emissary. I chose to fight with the Emissary. I wanted Sam by my side for one more fight. And at the end, you have to try and kill the hunter. The hunter reveals that in every other timeline he's ever been to, because every time you enter the Unity, you get stronger and stronger, is what he says.
Mm-hmm.
He has hunted the artifacts across space and time for millennia. And every time he encounters us, he kills us in New Atlantis or on the Eye or whatever, and he takes the artifacts. The reason he was so intrigued by us in New Atlantis was we had never survived that long, and we fought him off in this timeline.
Mm.
So he wants to be there when we assemble all the artifacts and enter the Unity, because he wants to see what happens to us. I actually got out of the final fight in the game without any bloodshed. I talked him out of fighting me.
Mm.
My persuasion was so high. So it's hilarious. He's just like, oh, fine, here's my fucking gun. See you. And he just leaves. And, Sam basically urges me on. He described whoever your companion that died as. I'm saying Sam, but the emissary essentially says that they travel the timelines, and them and the hunter always meet up at the exact same time, at the exact same location, because the emissary travels the timelines looking for people worthy of entering the Unity and basically becoming immortal. By becoming Starborn, you become immortal.
Interesting.
And, among the revelations you find out along the way, the emissary urges you to go to NASA on Earth, for example. When you go to NASA, you find out the truth behind the warp drives. The warp drives and the research conducted to create them was born out of the final artifact. It's the final one that you discover, at least, for the Unity. But the experiments in Earth's atmosphere were so deadly that it destroyed the planet. That's what caused us to have to leave for the stars.
That's what I was gonna ask, if Earth was really like some sort of wasteland.
It is. In fact, if you go there, it's a desert.
Oh, the whole planet?
The whole planet is a desert. There's some that are like Arctic, but yeah, it's a complete wasteland. You can actually discover different locations on the Earth and the Moon by reading certain books that are hidden in the game.
Oh.
So like that's how you find the St. Louis Arch. That's how you find Cape Canaveral. You can find the Apollo landing site on the Moon, but you can only find these places by reading specific books in game.
That's cool. That's really cool.
I thought that was very cool. That very much honor, and they're in like obscure places too. Right. So it's like, oh yeah, and there's like there's artifacts at each of these too. Like there's like NASA coffee mugs and things like that. When you go into New Game Plus though, so it's not even New Game Plus, but when you've assembled all the artifacts and you build the armamillion on your ship, it's like, hey, go talk to your teammates. And you talk to all your teammates, and you choose the next time you power up your grav drive just by itself, you jump to the Unity. You jump to the center of the universe, and it's just you there. And you talk to yourself. It's very much, if you've played the end of Shadowkeep's campaign in Destiny, it feels very like that, except It's not an evil you. But Captain Han was talking to Captain Han. And it's this wild scene, but they give you the option if you want to enter the Unity or not. Basically, it's do you want to start New Game Plus or not? Because they're like, you can stay here. There's no problem with that. You can stay in this timeline. They're like, let me show you what happens in this timeline after you leave it. So it shows the fate of the companions that you've done the quest lines for example. Mm-hmm. So as I had only finished Sarah's, it tells me that Sarah eventually joined me in the Unity. She eventually found the artifacts and jumped and was reborn. It shows the fate of the Freestar Rangers. It shows that the members of Constellation who chose to stay behind, basically the non-combatant ones, all the scientists, published the stories of our adventures and of all the scientific findings, telling the universe at large about the artifacts and about the Starborn, and it led to a brand new era of space travel and exploration. And so, like, you see all these things and you go, okay, then. And I chose to go through, I went through the portal, and when you come out, you are wearing armor that is very Destiny 1 themed.
Oh boy.
Corey, I swear to God, this helmet could have been lifted straight from Destiny 1 and you wouldn't have known any differently. And you have this ultra powerful and fast ship, like going, kid you not, like 800 miles an hour. And your objective is to go to the lodge. And when you go to the lodge, Constellation is there, basically pulls their guns on you. Like, who the hell are you? And you explain to them who you are, that you're you from a different timeline. They don't really believe you, but you have the option to play through the entire storyline or play an abridged version of it. where you assemble the artifacts, you do the last mission of the storyline, and then you jump again. After that jump, I have not done it yet, but you can get any number of random outcomes after that. There are ones where you go to the lodge and every member of Constellation is a child.
Oh.
There is one. I saw this. It was Gathalions. I've seen some people say they got it as recently as as early as their third New Game Plus. He got it on his 10th. He entered the Constellation Lodge, and it's a bunch of different versions of you.
Oh.
There's Crimson, and it's your character speaking. It's look, that's Ryujin Industries you. That's Crimson Fleet you. That's Sistef you. That's Weird you. And it's just like all these things, and I'm cracking up watching this. Like now, I understand why Greg Miller has reset his game 5 times. Now I understand why people are playing out differently each time. You don't get to reset your traits in New Game Plus, but you get to keep building on the character you've already created. You have brand new dialogue options because you already know what's going to happen in so many of the quest lines. That's so really different cool. Pathways are opened to you. Different dialogue options are open to you.
That's really cool.
It's very cool. It's the best done New Game Plus I think that I've ever seen. It's a meaningful one. It's a meaningful one that genuinely builds a whole new game. So I encourage everyone to do New Game Plus. But like even beyond that, I mean, you get into the faction storylines and just like this feels like one thing Bethesda I think has always done good is the faction storylines.
Yeah.
I mean, like admittedly, my memories of Morrowind are very hazy, but when I think back to like Oblivion, and I think of like the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood, for example, those are the two that have stuck with me from Oblivion throughout all these years. How dark the Dark Brotherhood quest was. The Thieves Guild literally has you stealing an Elder Scroll.
Oh.
Like, from the top of the Imperial Palace. And then escaping. Like, there are so many things that are cool in these storylines throughout the years. Like, you think of the factions from Fallout 4, even if I didn't really like any of them, whichever one you were pledged to affects the ending of your game. That's your ending quest, is your ending faction quest. Like, what happens with the Institute. It is... There are so many things that are just wild about how Bethesda does these. And then I go and do these, and it feels like a perfected version of that. Like, there's one where, you're sent undercover by, by aspiring within the Navy to infiltrate the pirates. And eventually you have to choose, do you want to join the pirates or do you want to stay, loyal to the good guys? You've got one where, you take a job at a kiosk and it ultimately leads to a whole quest line of sneaking and corporate espionage. And like the levels have so much verticality in them when you're sneaking and this and that. And it's, all that's cool. You get non-lethal weapons to use on your missions. I mediated a gang war in a quest line. I'm working on one now that's it's the Vanguard one, and I thought this was going to be like ship combat, the way they were describing, because they made me go through a whole pilot's exam and everything. Nope, I have been on the ground fighting aliens.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the things called terramorphs, which are actually terrifying.
Jeez. So
there's so many cool things that I love about this game, and like, that's what I've been mainlining. Like the Freestar Rangers quest line is cool. I get to be a space cowboy. Like, I enjoy so many of these storylines, and I'm glad with the direction that they take them, that I've neglected so many of these side quests. Like, even some of these side quests have like 3 or 4 quests attached to them.
Yeah.
They're building entire storylines off of these characters. And I think that's something that Bethesda does really, really well. Like, we could sit here and, like, rag on them for the animations or, a substandard, main plot. Even if I personally love it, I know that not everybody is going to like this. I know this is going to be a controversial main plot.
Yeah, but, like, I know people complain about which I don't think the animations are that bad. I know people are like, oh, traditional Bethesda Deadeye characters. But, like, I think, like, just... It's the way they make games. Plus, look at the ambition this game has, right? I mean, you listening to you talk about the stuff that happens, like Like, what are you going to do with that, right? And plus there's like
Right.
1,000 planets you could go to, multiple, probably hundreds if not thousands of quests that you may or may not see, variations. Obviously
Mhm.
this multiverse thing that you've been talking about is super cool. Like, it's not like a linear game like something like The Last of Us or Hellblade or something, where like those games are uh, amazingly gorgeous, but like they're linear, third person action games. This is like a whole universe to explore.
Yeah, I'm also like significantly less bothered by not having people on every planet than I thought I was going to be, because let me tell you something, if you have people on all these planets, first off, it would be completely unrealistic.
Yeah.
Second off, like there's actual like plot reasons for it, which I really like.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's only been 300 years, it hasn't been like 2000 or something.
Yeah, it's not like Mass
Also,
Effect, right?
LOL at everybody who was like, "Oh, you can't land on a gas giant." You see exactly why you can't in one of the missions, and it's amazing. It's amazing. You have to actually like fly into the atmosphere of one,
That's amazing.
and your ship is getting hit by lightning the whole way. You have to dock with the ship you're trying to get to before your ship gets ripped apart.
Yeah. I saw a thread on somewhere. It might have been Twitter or something, which that was a mistake in the first,
Yeah,
whatever. But like somebody was like, I can't land on Jupiter. Why? And somebody replied, because it's gas.
yeah,
It's like, it's I like sometimes, like especially in something like Destiny, right? It kind of like, it's like they don't give you planets that are gas either, I mean, like
right.
Mercury would be the most unrealistic one because it's just so hot, right? But like they don't, it's just ridiculous to even think you could land on one of those.
You just have no idea what science is if you think you can land on a gas giant. But
Yeah.
science doesn't change in. Never mind. It's. I will say zero gravity combat is the best thing about this game.
Yeah.
It is an absolute blast to get into zero G combat. There's one ship you can board that's like a mini dungeon basically,
Yeah.
and it's overrun by pirates, and the gravity keeps turning on and off, and that's hilarious because like you'll be in the middle of a firefight and all of a sudden you and the enemies are floating,
Huh.
and like the guns sound different in zero G and everything else. It's just such a cool. It's such a cool thing. I love how you can target different weapons. They'll let you target different systems on a ship to shut it down so you can board it. I confess I have a really hard time boarding ships. I just blow them up. There's so many awesome moments in this game, though, that I feel like the highs 100% outweigh the lows
Yeah.
for me. Like I saw somebody trying to say like, "Oh, this is as much of a catastrophe as Redfall." There was some I think like Metro UK or something gave it like a 4 out of 10, and I was like, okay. Listen, I can accept some lower scores. I think like, even if you give it like a 7 out of 10, I'm not going to be one of those people who's like throwing the fit over the 7 out of 10. I think it's a little weird.
Yeah.
I understand. Like after reading those reviews, I understand why it got a 7 out of 10. So weird probably isn't the right terminology. Like I personally would say I don't agree with it,
Yeah.
but I can see the argument for it.
Yeah.
This game is rough enough that I can see the argument. It's just like for me, it does everything I wanted.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the people who were disappointed were expecting either Mass Effect or a AAA No Man's Sky, and when they didn't get either, they got really upset.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Um,
well, I totally expected Skyrim or Fallout in space, essentially. Like,
and that's what we got.
yeah, and I'm like, I was talking about this the other day with someone where like, just based on what I've played so far, I haven't looked at my hour count. It's like 21 hours or so. Like, although now I kind of want to mainline the main story and kind of start New Game Plus or whatever. But I said,
Mm-hmm.
I said so far what I played, this game feels like Skyrim or Fallout in space. And I think that before I just learned all of this stuff that you just talked about, like this game is that. And if you like those games, you're going to love this game. But initially, this game doesn't really do enough to draw people in that don't like those games. Right. But like I don't know, man. Now I kind of want to like see what happens with the story and do New Game Plus, and because I feel like you and I are going to talk about this game for a long time.
Yeah, this is a game that I mean, I'm glad I'm through the main quest. I'm through the main factions. I'll clean up some side quests. I'll probably do some more exploring, but I'll probably put this game down next week.
Mm-hmm.
Just realistically, because I've managed to get through so much of it already.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many other things that I have to play before the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, I really want to make time for Baldur's Gate 3, for Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, Spider-Man 2. Like, there's so many other big open world games that I'm going to need to play that I'm going to have to sink, 80 plus hours into. Two of those are probably going to get like 60 to 80 hours from me.
Yeah.
Um,
well, I'm sure Baldur's Gate's going to you're going to live in that game for a while.
God, I'm so scared to start Baldur's Gate, but I'm okay with putting it down because I want to wait until there's mod support on console and until DLCs start coming.
Yeah,
I am all in on whatever DLC they want to do for this game. I think it's a good sign that we don't know when the first DLC is coming yet.
Yeah.
Usually with a Bethesda game, you kind of know when the first DLC is coming, like relatively soon after launch.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope they just like marinate on this for a little while. And I mean, if the earliest I think I would accept an announcement for DLC is like the Game Awards.
Yeah. That seems like a Game Awards thing.
Yeah. That feels like something to announce there. I'm so excited to see what they do with this franchise and with this universe. This is going to be a game that we debate for a very long time.
Yeah.
Whether you liked it, you didn't like it, what's its effect, and we'll get into this a little bit in the news, sales and subscription service numbers and whatnot. But one thing is really clear: Microsoft and Bethesda have a huge hit on their hands.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This game it's bonkers in all the right ways, in all the weirdest ways. Just, I really wish that the companions were better. I think that once you get to do their storylines, they're actually like really engaging, but those four are the morality police and they don't really let you do anything outside of that, which is a little frustrating.
Yeah.
More than a little frustrating, actually. Not explaining things is pretty frustrating. The UI, we've gone over the UI woes. And no land vehicles. I mean, those are some pretty big knocks. Like,
I wonder if they'll add land vehicles at some point. I wonder if
I gotta think that's an expansion.
Yeah.
I can't think of it. Like, I guess I look at smaller because they've historically done a couple big DLCs and some smaller DLCs for their games.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like something along the lines of like Fallout 4's automation, which really had an emphasis on robots.
Yeah.
Give me one that's about land vehicles. Even if you don't, if you do a sequel, you have to include land vehicles, or rightfully so, you're going to get dragged.
Yeah. I was actually shocked when I heard that.
I had wondered because I was like, we haven't seen any like land vehicles or had them talked about. Like, this is kind of weird.
Yeah, I almost wondered if they were going to save that to where like you could build ships that like you could store your vehicles in, right? Like, or like maybe you stored your vehicles in outposts or whatever, or like magically summon them at some point or whatever.
Give me a loading bay on my ship. Let me add a loading bay that just stores my rover.
Yeah.
But give me a rover with guns, please. I've seen enough shit out there that I want weapons on mine.
Yeah, like those dinosaurs that chase you on Aquila when you're going to one of the main quest areas.
Dude, that, but trust me, my brother, once you've fought a couple terramorphs, you're like, give me a vehicle with some missiles on it or something.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. It's so bad. I've fought enough. I have fought enough space pirates also to know that I want this. So
yeah.
But overall, I mean, yeah, if I don't like slapping scores on things these days, but if I had to slap a score on, I mean, this is probably a 9 for me. Probably a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, based off
I can't go any higher. I literally cannot go higher than that with the problems I have.
I mean, 9's not exactly a bad score. So
no, not at all. Not at all. That's kind of in line with the Metacritic. The Metacritic consensus is like 87, 88-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go as low as a 7.
Yeah.
But
No.
I do think that this is a game that if you like RPGs, if you like space, if you like games about exploration,
Hmm.
this is a game for you.
Hmm.
I would say be very patient for those first couple of hours, though.
Yeah.
People who were saying it took like 12, 15 hours for them to get into it, I have no idea what game you were playing.
Yeah.
For me, it took a couple hours. Most RPGs, like disclaimer, take a couple hours for me to get into when
Yeah.
there's promised to be hundreds of hours of content. Persona 5, one of my all-time favorite games, took me like 8 to 10 hours to like really be like, yeah, I actually care about this game.
Yeah.
And then it goes on to be just one of my favorite games ever made. So
Yeah. I mean, my initial, if I had to put a score based on what I've played, I would say I would be hovering around an 8, just because like
yeah,
I'm
that's
not.
fair.
I mean, I'm not really into like the Skyrim or Fallout
Mm-hmm.
style RPGs, right? But like this one is definitely better. I feel better playing this than I do other things, and it really does remind me of Mass Effect a lot. And I actually
Mm-hmm.
actually said that this game really makes me want to go back and play Mass Effect again. uh,
Yeah.
which I actually might after I finish this. To be honest, I have been getting that itch again anyway. So, but I would say it's around an 8. I think the combat could use a little work, but also it's not a third person shooter. I've been playing it in third person. It's not a third person shooter. It's an exploration RPG, right? So I kind of
Yeah.
gave it a pass, but yeah. Also, like I find myself being over encumbered a lot and having to sift through my inventory a lot just to like drop stuff. Because I thought like, oh, in Fallout everybody picks everything up and then shoves cheese in their house. In Skyrim I need to pick everything up, and that was a terrible idea.
The only thing that I collect everything of are the sandwiches.
Are you going to fill your ship with sandwiches, Josh?
I have about 15, 20 sandwiches laying around right now. Yes.
Got to get those numbers up, Josh.
I know. I got to make more sandwiches. Did you see the video of the guy who put like 10,000 sandwiches on his ship and then took off?
Yeah.
His game was running at like four frames per second.
Yeah.
He took off and it's just like this shower of sandwiches.
That's so funny.
One of our friends, I don't remember if it was Johnny or Phil, had Vasco was like riding on top of their ship when they took off. And so they're in space and Vasco's just standing on the hood.
That's funny.
It's pretty good. Vasco gets stuck on my ladder all the time. I don't think he's been able to come up to the main part of the ship like ever since I got this one.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty funny, but yeah, overall, like I can't wait to spend more time in this game. Probably by the next time that we meet on this show, I'll have wrapped Starfield for now.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is just due to just an incredibly like open week that I had this past week and Labor Day weekend on top of that.
Yeah. Also, like you said, you had about 50 hours in it. Like I'm kind of surprised that you've done that much in 50 hours.
I mean, when I tell you, I have gone from quest to quest to quest to quest to quest. That's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I might have more than 50. I haven't looked in a long time, but there's no way I have more than like 60.
Yeah.
Like, there's absolutely no way. But I mean, I feel like I'm at a pretty good cadence on the game too. Like, I'm absorbing everything. I'm listening to everything. I'm still like exploring when I go to these locations, but it's like very much like I'm going like I start a quest line and I want to finish it.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to just like let it sit around. I'm enjoying that. Now that I've like finished most of the faction storylines, I plan on exploring quite a bit, doing some things that I've picked up that I just like haven't gone and finished it. I have a quest called Beer Run in my inventory, and I'm really excited to go do that personally.
That's funny.
It's just it's got the Bethesda humor. And I think the writing could be better in some places. But overall, like I just think it's a really solid game. This is easily a slam dunk for Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
100% probably the best new IP they've introduced since Ori. Yeah. Which I don't think we've had a ton of new IP since Ori, but it's easily the best since.
Yeah.
I don't think I have to go all the way back to Gears like Phil said.
Yeah,
in terms of importance, yes.
Well,
in terms of quality, no.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking new IP, Gears, yes, but I mean, if you're talking in games in general, I would have, and I'm saying like pass or fail. Like I would have said, Halo 5 is probably one of the most important games, and it did not stick the landing. I mean,
Yeah.
they rushed that game out to try to save the Xbox One in that initial era, right? I mean, that was the
Well,
big complaint.
yeah, they're coming off Master Chief Collection, which was really bad.
Yeah.
And stuff. Otherwise, I think that Halo 5 may have been given a little bit more leeway. That's a fascinating story for another time. Just the development troubles of Halo 5.
Yeah.
I think that like when I look at like quality, I think the last time we got an Xbox, like a AAA level game with this much polish, with this much pedigree, and this is not Pentiment Erasure. I love Pentiment. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. That's a small game though. Hi-Fi Rush, small game.
Mm-hmm.
Last time we got an Xbox produced exclusive that was like this, that was on this level with like this attention and care put into it, that was a new franchise, you probably have to go back to Ori or Sunset Overdrive. I think both of those just incredibly polished games, incredible experiences.
Yeah. Sunset Overdrive, man.
Otherwise, you're going all the way back to the 360, which I don't think is that much of a stretch.
Yeah.
Go back to the 360, you're going all the way back to Gears. So this is, I hope, the beginning of a long-running franchise. I would not be shocked if the next game in this franchise was like Starfield 76-esque. I think that people really would love to have their own crew. And they love to have their own crew, go on missions together, build bases together. Like I could see a world in which that happens. Like kind of combine like Starfield with Sea of Thieves. I could see something like that for a future game. There were rumors going around a year and a half ago or so that ZeniMax was thinking about a Starfield MMO already.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me at all.
That would not shock me at all if that was ZeniMax Online's next game after ESO.
Yeah.
That wouldn't shock me at all. Kind of like try and like keep the I don't know, keep the anticipation for the storylines going. But I will say, whatever the next game is, it needs to take place like 500 years in the future. Like from Starfield 1, it needs to take place. It needs to be like Mass Effect timeline. Because I'm sorry, we need it to be more futuristic. It's cool that you did this as the foundation for the first game, but with the introduction of multiverse and Starborn and everything else, you need to go further into the future.
Yeah.
It lets you kind of hit that reset button also. I think by jumping that far forward, there's nobody is going to be upset if you leave these characters behind. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, you do it all the time in Elder Scrolls. No one's going to be upset.
Yeah.
You can still have it to where the lodge has been shut down, like Constellation went missing, generations before, but Vasco is powered down in a terminal in the lodge's basement or something.
Yeah.
And like maybe, if you have a save from the first game, like Vasco remembers you and this and that. Like there's some really cool shit you can do there. But I need it to be in the future. I need there to be friendly alien races. I need us to be able to go beyond this part of the Milky Way.
Yeah.
There's so many things you can do. I'd almost like a more streamlined experience for a second one. Like almost, I don't want to say like Mass Effect 2, but I want less planets in a sequel with more to do.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Less planets, more to do. And if you're going 800 years into the future, these planets should be very well colonized by that point.
Yeah.
I'd love to see if they could start restoring Earth. I think that would be a cool plot line. Like, is there a way to like fix Earth's atmosphere?
That would be cool. Like you gather resources to try to like, bring it back at least to a livable state. And then like, maybe that's where the MMO would come in or something, like, that would be kind of I don't know.
I'd like to see some expansion on shipbuilding. I'd like to build a fleet. I'd like to build a small fleet. I think that could be really cool. Give me better companions. Let me build my own weapons. Give me some wacky guns like in Fallout. In Fallout, you had the alien ray gun and like the Fat Man. Give me some stuff like that. Like, it was cool that you stuck to the NASA stuff for the first game. I think that's genuinely a cool take on space travel and on near future science fiction. Let's go beyond that now.
Yeah.
Let's dream bigger. Like, let's genuinely dream bigger. And the same call I'm going to make here is the same call I've made for Fallout. Establish a studio to shepherd the Starfield franchise.
Yeah.
And it's really corny, but seriously, build a studio, call it Constellation, and let them immediately start getting to work. There's nothing that says that Todd still can't be the EP on it and like oversee it.
I know. I
Like,
mean, look what
he
he's
has
doing
said
with
himself,
Indiana
this took
Jones,
way
right?
too long. Yeah, he was like, this shit's taken way too long.
Yeah.
And the only way to get around that is to establish other studios under Bethesda that handle these franchises.
Yeah.
Fallout's needed one for years now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'd be shocked if there wasn't a secret one for Fallout already.
Yeah.
We're going to need one for Starfield.
Yeah.
And then you can leave the main team to handle Elder Scrolls and any new IP.
Yeah.
So,
well, Josh,
I don't have any other thoughts.
Yeah,
it's a great game. Go play it.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. Even if you're not into the Elder Scrolls Fallout style RPG, but you do like exploration and maybe building ships and exploration, I would say try it out, especially if you have Game Pass. There's obviously no cost except for what you're paying for Game Pass. So I mean, why not? And like Josh said, first couple hours, just get through them, and if you don't like it by the time you get to Neon or whatever, like, you can call it, but I recommend it, and I don't even care about those games, so. Well, Josh, what do you say we get into some of this news?
Let's get into some news, Corey.
Josh, we have breaking news.
And at the end, we have a question.
We do.
We actually have a question at the end.
We do. Josh, we have breaking news.
Breaking news, Corey.
Ubisoft submitted XDefiant, and it was rejected by PlayStation and Xbox.
So, I can't remember the last time a company was like this transparent about it. I guess it was when CD Projekt Red was putting out the Cyberpunk patches.
Yeah.
But this happens all the time. We just don't normally hear about it.
Yeah.
Like, this is a normal thing that happens, but I really appreciated how honest they were about it, just because it gives us a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Into the certification process, which we don't normally get. But I'll be honest, I forgot this game was happening.
Yeah. I totally forgot.
Did not remember this game. I genuinely thought this game was canceled.
Yeah.
So, okay, XDefiant is not getting approved.
Put it on the shelf with Skull and Bones.
Oh my god, Roller Champions or whatever it was.
By the way, have you seen any of the press releases for Skull and Bones?
No.
The marketing team is now trying to sell it as SNB. Like, just the letters SNB.
Jesus Christ. This is a disaster.
I know, dude. This game.
This fucking game.
Man. Do you think that game's going to be any good?
No. No.
Oh, man.
There's not a shot in hell.
Dude, I was so excited when that game was announced the first time.
Like, I wasn't.
Oh, we're going to make like an Assassin's Creed Black Flag kind of sequel, but it's going to be all pirates instead of assassins. I was excited because I love Black Flag. I know you don't really care for it, but
I fucking hate it.
I love Black Flag, and I was like, yes, let's make a whole game about it.
I just find it very funny that they announced Skull and Bones. Sea of Thieves gets announced. Sea of Thieves comes out, is a complete catastrophe. They rebuild it. Sea of Thieves is this raging worldwide success with multiple IP partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
And Sea of Thieves, or Skull and Bones, SNB, excuse me. SNB, that sounds like some sort of like kinky sex thing.
Yeah. Can't
even get out of like alpha.
Yeah.
And they have to put it out because they got a grant from Singapore to make it.
I know.
This is just such a farce.
Oh man. Ubisoft, man. What a
S&B.
I don't understand how Ubisoft is still in business. Like, you hear all these cancellations and delays and just stuff like this, and then I guess it's because...
And then they put out an Assassin's Creed game and it sells 20 million copies without blinking.
I know. Which I'm one of those people who buys these games because I love that series.
We're intimately aware, Corey.
I know. I just wanted to let everybody know that, if you're looking forward to XDefiant, you're going to keep waiting. All right, let's get into the...
Speaking of closures, though.
I know. Let's get into the real news.
Embracer.
I know, man.
Closed Volition up.
I know. Right after they announced their 30th anniversary, right after they folded them in with Gearbox.
So yeah, so the timeline on this, they do this right after the 30th anniversary. They folded him Gearbox. They put out the press release as the Starfield embargo drops.
Right.
So it's all just really shady, and we were like, "Oh God, who could have seen this coming?" Oh, and on top of that, Saints Row is a PS Plus game this month
I know.
for Essential.
I know, man.
So the same day that announcement is made, so this happens. We're all like, "Oh no, who could have ever seen this coming with Embracer Group?" And then just today, Corey, we find out that they are looking to potentially sell off Gearbox,
Shocker.
one of their only worthwhile studios.
Yeah.
Only 18 months after acquiring them. What a fucking train wreck,
yeah,
man.
this is
who in the year 2023 is paying $1.5 billion for Borderlands, essentially?
right. Duke, don't forget about Duke Nukem.
Nobody is paying for either of these franchises in the year of our Lord 2023.
Yeah.
But if I could offer like some, I guess on Gearbox, like there's been possibilities that they're either going to sell them off or Gearbox could go independent.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
If Gearbox were to be spun off from Embracer, I do think there's a few publishers, I think, namely Take-Two would be interested.
Especially because they publish.
They publish Borderlands. Like, and I think Embracer realized, like, oh, it feels like this is a we did not read the fine print moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, we don't actually get the credit for anything from Borderlands.
Right.
So I feel like the obvious answer here is Take-Two. If I could offer up a dark horse.
Ooh.
Sony Interactive.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
SIE's been really clear about wanting to bring in developers to work on live service games, and they've never really had a solid multiplayer game. They have Destiny, and that's about it. They'll have Marathon eventually, but everything else is far from a guaranteed hit that they're working on. Yeah. Why not bring in someone who regularly puts out hit games?
Yeah,
that people just sink a ton of money and time into.
Yeah, plus like Borderlands, even though those games aren't games as a service, you could easily make like quote unquote border worlds and make it some sort of game as a service.
They don't even have to do it. They do season passes. They did 2 full season passes for Borderlands 3.
Yeah.
So plus like deluxe editions and everything else, like the Borderlands franchise still sells.
Yeah.
Tiny Tina's may not have, but the Borderlands franchise as a whole sells.
Yeah.
I would watch Sony and 2K as the two that are really going to step up to try and get them in house.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Was that thunder? Maybe. No, it was the asshole truck outside.
No.
I really think that EA would be interested if they didn't already have DICE and Respawn under their belts.
Mm-hmm.
I just maybe Activision would have gone for them if they weren't already getting bought. I've seen some people say, "Oh, I hope Microsoft does it." God, please, Microsoft, stay away from this.
Yeah, especially right now. You haven't even finished the Activision deal yet.
Yeah, even if they weren't buying Activision, I'd be like, God, stay away. You don't need them. Mm-hmm. They're not going to boost your bottom line that much.
Yeah,
you already dominate the shooter space in terms of exclusives. Like, stay away from it.
Yeah.
So. Volition, on the other hand, I really wish that they could have found somebody. Somebody would have bought Volition.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know the last couple Saints Row games were not great, and Agents of Mayhem wasn't great, but like, I don't know. I still think that IP is worth something.
Yeah, I think you buy them for. I think you buy it for the Saints Row IP, but also Red Faction.
Yeah. Do they still own Red Faction, or does that like
they did?
I mean, I know they did, but like when the THQ fire sale went off, didn't somebody else?
Yeah, they still had them. Nope, Volition still had them. Embracer announced that the rights for Red Faction and Saints Row are transferring to another studio that they own.
Man, dude, Red Faction, man.
Yeah, what a kick in the dick, man.
Yeah.
I feel like that Volition could have found a new home. Gearbox is the like one of like 3 studios that will be completely okay if Embracer goes under.
Mm-hmm.
Gearbox, Crystal Dynamics, and probably the studio that makes Metro will be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, like, do the THQ Nordic Studios spin off into their own collective again? Probably.
Yeah.
This feels really bleak. they have to cut like another 1.5 billion or something in expenditures.
Yeah.
By what is it, the end of October or something?
Something like that. Dude, we knew this was
So
going to happen though.
we
We
literally knew this was going to happen when they bought Crystal Dynamics so cheap. We're like, oh, this isn't going to end well.
Yeah. And I mean, they're going to end up selling those studios too, IDOS and
they'll turn around and make money on those.
Yeah.
They'll turn around and make money on those. I 100% expect that if Crystal Dynamics is sold, it goes to Sony. 100%.
You think? They're already working with you?
Yep. Microsoft cannot step in and buy anybody else right now. And if those studios go up for sale while they're still trying to close this Activision bullshit or in the immediate aftermath, there is no way.
Yeah,
they'll be prevented. I would want to bring in, and I understand that Crystal Dynamics is co-developing Perfect Dark and Eidos is helping with Fable. I would want to bring in the partners that I have that are a lot closer, like Certain Affinity first.
Yeah.
Or maybe even Iron Galaxy at this point. I'd rather bring like those guys in than just like people who are helping on games.
Yeah.
Support studios. That's all. They're being support studios, and they just happen to be high profile studios doing support work, which usually doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So we'll see. This surely is not the last we've heard of Embracer messing things up this year.
Right. Oh man.
Who do we think is going to ruin the Lord of the Rings IP first, Embracer or WB? Because WB came out this week and said they feel like Harry Potter, the DC universe, and Lord of the Rings are all underused IPs.
Shocker.
Jesus Christ. Imagine thinking that Harry Potter and DC are anywhere near underutilized.
Well, I would argue that the Harry Potter franchise has been underutilized in games, at least.
Well, in games, but they're talking across all media, Corey.
Yeah, I know.
You can't make the argument. They just had Hogwarts Legacy, which sold like 20 million copies without blinking.
I know, and
they've had 3 spin-off movies. They've had a couple like spin-off books at this point. J.K. Rowling is a pariah, and nobody wants to touch her with a 10-foot pole.
Except Max, because they're making it. They've already confirmed that it's going to be 8 seasons. It doesn't matter how much it costs.
Yeah, so I can't see why you're saying that this, like, why they would make the argument that this is underutilized.
I was just saying in games. I thought they were talking about games.
No. David Zaslav could give a shit about WB games.
Yeah, I mean they've been trying to sell them off for a long time, right? Those studios. Or like
it was thought that they were going to sell them off until Zaslav got put in charge and realized just how much money NetherRealm and the DC games do bring in.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even Gotham Knights, man, that game sold like what, 10 million units, something like that.
I don't know. It sold decently, and I don't think it sold 10 million.
It just got rated for Switch too.
What a catastrophe!
Oh my gosh, dude, they didn't even run well on the series consoles. How are you going to make that game run on Switch? Sorry, I know people liked it, but I'm just, oh man.
Yeah, I don't really have high hopes for this, but we'll see. I don't think WB is getting sold off anytime soon, but maybe another year or two, and we're having a different conversation. If they didn't get sold off in the aftermath of the Bethesda deal, I can't imagine they're going to anytime soon.
Yeah.
So,
well, RIP Volition. I hope everybody that was affected finds their way to new work. I know games jobs are really hard to come by, and
I've seen a lot of people from the studio say that they just think they're going to leave games altogether after what happened.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. There's so much fucking turnover in this industry.
I know. Dude, every time you open Twitter, somebody you know has changed jobs, has started at a new studio, and they barely last 5 years. And then they're moving on. Especially like writers and obviously contract workers too. So
yeah, I mean, I would argue writers, it's a little bit different. They're leaving to work on new projects. I mean, you've worked on the same franchise for like 5 years. You want something different.
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit different than like getting laid off, being like QA and getting laid off, for example.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So, but speaking of sales, Corey.
Speaking of sales, Josh,
these fucking Starfield numbers that we're seeing.
Oh, I know, man, dude. Starfield outsold Skyrim's first week and had more concurrence on Steam. It had over 1 million players the first week, and if you include Game Pass numbers or something ridiculous, and now they're at
Yeah,
like
so
3 or 4 million or something. Zoom tight.
The way that it broke down was thank you, by the way. The way it broke down was it hit a peak. I think it was 24 hours after early access started on Steam of like 250,000 users. Which, keep in mind, on Steam means you paid $100 or you paid $250 for this. That does not. You cannot use the Game Pass upgrade there. So that's already pretty successful. Chris Dierig over at GamesIndustry.biz has kind of been giving us some sales numbers because UK publishes weekly. He said that the early access code for Xbox was so popular, and this is in the physical steelbook case you had to buy in a store, this does not include the digital ones, was so popular that it charted number 7 on the charts for that week.
That's so funny.
And then he said that this last week, Starfield hit number 1 on the charts, and he says that's boxed sales, and he's like, the numbers were almost exactly identical to Diablo 4. And he goes, that is extremely good for Microsoft because Diablo 4 was a very heavy digital game.
Yeah, and like the fact that it's on Game Pass and it's still selling that well, right? On one console instead of, or a console and PC instead of 3,
Phil Spencer came out 24 hours after the launch, after the wide launch on the 6th, and said, we have hit over 1 million concurrent players across all platforms, including Game Pass. And then just a couple days later said 6 million people have played the game so far.
That's so many people.
That is so many people. And I really want to know how many people paid for the early access, how many people bought boxed or deluxe editions. I'm very curious to see the MPD charts on this game because this is going to be the poster child for the discussion of subscription service numbers. I think either way, you cannot argue that this was a failure of a launch in any way, no matter what the numbers are. If this is the preliminary data we're getting, this is, like Chris Dierig was saying, he goes, this is already one of the biggest launches of the year, just with that 6 million comment.
Yeah.
He goes, ignoring the box data that we have already in the UK, ignoring the pre-sale numbers. Like, he's like, this is one of the biggest launches of the year. He's like, this is up there with Diablo 4, Tears of the Kingdom, Hogwarts Legacy. Like, it's up in that echelon.
Yeah.
He's like, it's probably on the lower end of that, but he's like, it's up there. Like God of War Ragnarok at 5 million in its first few days on sale.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 16 in its first month at 3.5 million in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's like, we are looking at another mega launch with this game.
Yeah.
And he's like, you can't, he's like, yeah, people are trying to discredit it by saying, oh, well, Game Pass. And he's like, it doesn't matter. They have that many people engaging with it. He's like, how many people bought consoles? How many people bought subscriptions to play this game? Like,
yeah, you think they'll
release about this like long term?
You think they'll release those numbers like after the first month of like how many consoles or subscriptions, probably Game Pass subscriptions that they sold or with this, right? Maybe.
I don't know. I think that if anything, they'll save them for quarterly earnings. Yeah. I would watch
still at the end of the month, though.
So today's the 11th. Looking at my calendar, I would say the game went into wide release on what, the 6th?
Yeah.
I would watch for the 13th. I would watch for Wednesday morning to see if they brag about first week engagement and sales numbers.
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee you the second they hit 10 million, they're bragging about it.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
If they have some the sales numbers, they probably won't brag about unless they would need to sell like 5 million copies, I think, for them to brag about it in like the first week for them to brag. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they'll save it for end of the month for NPD numbers.
Yeah.
But either way, this is an unmitigated success.
Oh yeah. I don't understand the people who thought this might not be, like, I mean, I know it's probably like a bunch of no-name Sony fanboys or whatever, but like people were saying, oh, it's not going to sell well. It's not just, and I'm like, dude, it's a Bethesda Game Studios game. It's going to sell, it's going to last for at least a decade or more.
Yeah. I like the legs on this probably won't be like amazing. I think you'll probably see a spike around the holidays with people buying consoles, and it's being bundled with Xboxes now too. So like everybody's getting it no matter what. I would say that the numbers are probably going to be less than that. They'll probably end up landing around like I think Fallout 3 sold like 8 million copies total or something. It'll probably land around Fallout 3.
Yeah.
Lifetime, maybe you hit 10. But I think in order to hit 10, you would have to release on PlayStation, or to go higher than 10, you'd have to release on PlayStation. And Microsoft's not going to be willing to do that. Not at least not right now. I think for right now, this has proven the validity of their model. We're going to have this discussion again with the next Bethesda game, though, because I really think that's the next game where we're going to sit here and go, can you really release this onto a subscription service?
Yeah.
So,
or like even on one console,
yeah,
I don't really care whether or not Elder Scrolls is Xbox exclusive or not, and like they haven't really clarified what legacy means yet, right? So I don't know, because like Doom has a legacy on PlayStation. Does that mean the third Doom game is going to come, or Wolfenstein?
That would be the argument I would make.
Yeah.
That would be the argument I would make.
Yeah.
We've always argued that Elder Scrolls and Fallout are two distinctly different IPs. Like Doom and Wolfenstein are long-running franchises that have been on everything under the sun. Elder Scrolls only came to console because of Xbox.
Yeah.
So I think you can like make a technicality argument there.
Yeah, and they just released Quake 2 remastered over there too, right? So
and they're going to, and things like that. I'm a firm believer should go to all platforms. There's no reason not to. Yeah. Those are not moving the needle for you,
especially because like things like Wolfenstein, even though we love them and we think they're great, like it doesn't sell that great, right?
They sell fine.
No, like, fine, but not like
New Order moved like 5 million copies. That's pretty damn good for a third-party game.
Yeah, I just meant they're not like as popular as something like Elder Scrolls or Fallout. And like if you want to get
Elder Scrolls, like didn't even really ascend until Skyrim.
Yeah,
Elder Scrolls, and then Fallout was popular with Fallout 3, but Fallout 4 was the one that like sold triple the amount of 3.
Yeah,
that and New Vegas were the big hits.
Yeah,
so I'm curious to see what they end up doing here. I still think that Elder Scrolls will at least initially be an Xbox exclusive, but if that one showed up on PlayStation like 18 months later, I wouldn't be too shocked. We have no idea what the industry will look like in 5 years.
We don't even know what it's going to look like next year.
Right. With how rapidly things are changing. So, but for right now, I think this provides plenty of validity to Microsoft's claim of Game Pass is not going to hurt the sales numbers for our mega titles.
Yeah.
And we already know it. It's not going to do that with Forza either. So
yeah. All right, Josh. We have some another bit of bad news, but all is well. But Stalker 2 developer GSC Game World suffers a fire in their new Prague offices shortly after they moved there because of the war. This is crazy, man. The quote here is, fortunately, none of the employees or office staff were injured in the accident. A fire broke out in our office in Prague on Thursday. Even though the fire was successfully put out, one of the office floors now requires full restoration. Further details of the accident are still being investigated. We express our deepest appreciation for your questions and the words of support we have been receiving. No anomaly, not even a burner, will make us stop in our pursuit for our final goal. We've dealt with worse than that before. This is fine.
Yeah, this is a studio that's dealt with so much. They've relocated to the war. They seem to get hacked like every other week. So many builds of this game have been leaked on like 4chan and whatnot. And man, I just want this game to come out. I feel so bad for this studio. It keeps happening.
I know.
But man, through it all, they're being really resilient. I hope this game ends up being good. This is like the ultimate, even if I don't plan on playing it, I'm probably still buying a copy. Just to support the studio.
Yeah. Any kind of, any Russian or Ukrainian, or not Russian, any Ukrainian developer who's just gone through so much because of the war, and like I feel like we need to support them just to like say, we got your back, even if we're not planning on playing Stalker. Like, I'm not planning on playing Stalker, right? Like, it's not really a game for me, but like this studio has been through so much, man. They like deserve the money.
That's how I feel about Sad Cat also, who's making Replaced.
Yeah.
Over in Belarus. They also have left their country. They recently had to announce that their game's getting pushed to 2024, and just all the comments that I saw were like, "Oh my god, like Xbox had to delay another exclusive," and it's like, no, that's not what this is. Like, there's fucking war going on, you imbeciles. Like, calm down, mouth breathers.
Right.
There's a fucking war going on. There's some things that's bigger than pixels on a screen.
Right.
So
I feel like we go through that every time there's a delay, but this is
every time. Every time.
But I hope everybody is well over there. I hope everybody recovers and is I hope Stalker 2 is amazing.
Yep. Heard nothing but good things out of the out of Gamescom.
Yeah. I mean, what Phil and the crew were playing it over there and they loved it, right? So
yeah,
it's great. All right, Josh, let's hit some DLC, some quick hits here. Donald Mustard will retire from Epic Games this month as the lead architect. I'm kind of shocked to hear this, to be honest, a little bit. I always thought, like, especially like him and Tim Sweeney. Obviously, Tim Sweeney kind of owns the company, but like these long timers, man, I just thought they were going to stay until they felt like, I don't know. I guess it's time. I mean, Epic's been around forever. I guess Donald Mustard's been around forever too, now that you kind of think about it, but it's just interesting. I thought that was it's kind of like a big loss for them.
Not kind of. I mean, he's the creative mind behind Fortnite.
Yeah.
He was the guy who came up with the idea of Fortnite doing a seasonal storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of us have noted that the storytelling's been really bad this year, ever since the new island was made around Christmas time last year. And this kind of explains it now.
Yeah.
So I'm not super optimistic, but I mean, Epic's going to be in a good place still. It'll take a while to replace. I mean, we kind of went through the same thing when Cliffy B left, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the minds behind Unreal Tournament, and of course, Gears of War was his love child.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
this is not.
By the way, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Side tangent. Cliffy B and Josh Ortega have really been talking about Gears a lot lately. It's like, I don't know, man.
Man, I don't think that he would ever want to come back to the franchise.
Yeah. He wants to be a part of the movie though, like in the creative
process. Oh, and I 100% think he should be.
Yeah.
He should absolutely be part of it. I'd like for like a pre Marcus Gears, if they did another title like Tactics or something. I'd like for him to be involved with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've and Corey, you know this stance. I personally think Gears needs to go away after Gears 6.
Yeah, I think
that franchise has been milked and run into the ground. Not to say that there's not still quality there. I love 4 and 5.
Yeah.
But you're running out of things to do. Like, this is the exact same. The stuff you're doing now is basically exactly what you did with the Locust and the Lambent. Yeah. So it's time. Yeah. It's time. Just end the story with 6, please. Yeah. Or at least like let it go on ice for like 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even think, like, to be honest, like, I don't really think, I know Gears is a big franchise for them, but I mean, I don't think it needs another game after 6, I think you could probably safely retire the main franchise as a whole and then just make some spin-offs.
I don't even really want spin-offs, because I just think like the Gears name, it's like, okay, Xbox doesn't need to run on Gears, Halo, and Forza anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's become so much more than that, and there's so many more exciting stories. I don't want to see the Coalition just continue to get used only for Gears. Like, that's arguably their best internal studio.
Yeah.
And they're they already canceled one new IP that they were working on.
Well, technically 2, when they were still Black Tusk.
That's
and
true.
Microsoft bought them. That Shank.
Well, that's the one I was referring to.
Project
I completely forgot about the little one.
Yeah.
The smaller game they recently canceled. I'm kind of over it, and I feel like that was the thinking of like the old Microsoft, like Matrick and Phil Harrison would have been like running them into the ground, being like, "No, you are only ever going to make Gears."
Yeah.
I hope they have learned from the 343 debacle
Mm-hmm.
that unless you are turn 10, you can make other things.
Yeah.
Like turn 10 and Polyphony will always be Forza and Gran Turismo, respectfully.
Yeah.
Because you build those, and when you go to apply for a job there, you know exactly what you are getting into.
Yeah.
Those are the best of the best in the world at making racing games.
Yeah.
Like the Coalition, it's fine to start branching out. I mean, come on. It took a while, but look at Playground. They made Forza Horizon, and they built a whole other, it might as well have been a brand new studio just to handle Fable.
Yeah.
And who's to say that Fable is the only game they're ever going to work on over in that division of the studio too?
Right.
You know, now they can work on other RPGs. You know, maybe they help out on, you know, a future Elder Scrolls or Starfield or something, doing even like artwork or rendering for them.
Right. All right. Well, we're gonna move on. Josh, you might be excited for this. Gargoyles Remastered is coming. A kind of like a remaster of the Super Nintendo game.
I'm so excited for this, but it's coming in October.
Just in time for everything else.
Just in time for literally everything else. I'm so upset about this.
It looks good though.
I will play this, but this is like a January game for me.
Yeah.
Maybe December if I get really, really lucky.
Man, dude.
But I kind of want the limited run games version of this. They did a gargoyle statue with it. I think it looks really cool.
Oh, they did. I didn't know they announced that.
Yeah, I don't know if I could get away with buying it, but I want to.
Is it a Goliath statue?
Yes.
Oh man. All right, I got to stop looking at it because I'm going to buy it.
It's distressing.
You know what I'm excited for, Josh? Another TMNT game is coming out next year based on the movie.
I could not care less.
Oh my god, dude, I'm so excited. I still need to
I'm not a Ninja Turtles fan. I feel like we go over this every week.
We do, but I put this in here for me. I put Gargoyles in for you, and I put Ninja Turtles in for me.
Well, I can accept that.
Yeah. Man, I'm so excited. Except Outright Games is making it, which is like, dude, they make Peppa Pig and Paw Patrol games, so oof. I don't have high hopes on this.
Yeah,
but either way, man, give Turtles to a good studio, man. You know, like.
Well, I mean, Embracer technically did. We'll just see if it actually happens. No. Well, did Embracer really give it to a good studio?
No, the last Ronin.
Yeah,
or the last Ronin. Hold on. Studio 4 game. Let's see. No, it's Black Forest Games who did the Destroy All Humans remasters.
That's right. We made fun of this a few weeks ago. See, I've already forgotten.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't somebody good, but let's see here. Where am I at? Okay. Josh, did you see the Mega Bloks replica Xbox 360 with a fake copy?
I did, and then I saw the price. I saw the price tag, and I nearly red ringed.
Oh god, I didn't see the price tag. What is it? Like $200?
$150.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, I really like this, but for that price, I'd rather just go buy an actual 360 and put it on my shelf.
Yeah.
I still have my 360 controllers and a copy of Halo 3.
Yeah.
So I think we still have a 360 packed away somewhere, actually.
Yeah. I have.
It's cool, but not $150 cool.
Yeah. Yikes.
If you could build a red ring on it, that would have been like the best Easter egg. I think they should have done it as like a little tongue-in-cheek thing.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Microsoft would have so many people would have loved that. It would have been funny.
Yeah, that would have been funny. All right, Josh, we're gonna skip the other side tonight because we talked a ton about Starfield and we have a question to answer. Unless you really want to talk about this.
No, I want to wait and see if we get any more. There's a rumor Nintendo Direct for either this week or early next week, and I want to see if they show it.
Yeah,
I want to see if they show this because the rumor that was coming out today by somebody who's pretty reliable about leaking Nintendo stuff said that all he keeps hearing is March 2024 in regards to the next console.
I mean, they would have to show pretty
Um,
quick. Although they didn't reveal the Switch until October,
October. Yeah.
because I was on my honeymoon when they released that first trailer.
I remember staying up until what was it, midnight, watching I watched the reveal, and then we found because they did it at night.
Yeah.
They did it at night, so it was during the morning in Japan.
Yeah, the one in January of
Oh yeah,
2017.
yeah. When you could order the console,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed up, and our friend Ray and we were frantically trying to order that and the Master Edition of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
But the rumor for this console is that it's gonna run comparably to PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah.
And that it supposedly ran Breath of the Wild at 4K 60.
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't know how much stock I put in that because that's almost certainly docked.
Yeah, it's got to be docked. And like, I mean, look, Breath of the Wild is essentially like an Xbox 360 game.
Yeah, but still, I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens here. They did, they said there was going to be backwards compatibility. The source said that there'd be some backwards compatibility here, but that they showed it behind closed doors at Gamescom. We'd been hearing those rumors all summer that they were going to show it behind closed doors at Gamescom.
Yeah.
This is nothing new. The March 2024 stuff has been going around since like April of this year.
Yeah, we know key developers also have dev kits already. Like,
Yep.
they have for a while. Like, I mean, Ubisoft and Activision both talked about it at the hearing. Well, Ubisoft not at the hearing, but around the same time.
Activision did.
Yeah.
Activision straight up confirmed it.
Yeah.
And that would also give credence to why Microsoft can make the promise of bringing Call of Duty games over.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I mean, if this does get announced, surely we'll talk about it on the next episode.
Yeah.
But I want to wait until we have like some physical specs in hand.
Yeah. I want to,
or we have like a little bit more concrete details. Like, I want to know this thing actually announced and what it's going to be called, so we can stop calling it Switch 2.
I hope
Super Nintendo Switch. Come on.
I hope it's called Switch 2. I hope they just call it Switch 2.
I hope it's Super Nintendo Switch, so that the next one is Switch 64.
Oh no. Yeah, I just want to know if it's backwards compatible and how powerful it is. And they better keep the same damn design.
I'm going to need a whole overhaul of the virtual There's a whole laundry list of things. We could probably do a whole episode of my gripes about Nintendo's ecosystem.
Oh god. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Josh. Let's move on to what's coming to Game Pass this week. A surprise announcement just announced shortly after the our last episode. Solar Ash, the previous time exclusive indie game from Heart Machine, Hyperlight Drifter, and I think they're putting out Hyperlight Breaker this year or early next year.
Yes.
It's finally coming to Xbox, console, cloud, and PC. Game Pass. I'm really excited for that game. I'm
excited for this. This is a game I really wanted to play, and I just never got around to it.
Yeah.
So pretty excited it's coming to Game Pass. What a banger month, though.
I know, man. Lies of P is coming on the 19th, which Jez Corden tweeted out today, said, "Don't sleep on Lies of P. It's amazing."
Everybody I've talked to who played the demo this summer was like, it's amazing.
Yeah. Coming to console and PC. On 9/20, Party Animals is coming to console and PC.
I'm excited about Party Animals.
Dude, that game looks wild. And then on 9/21, Payday 3 is coming to console and PC.
God, and you've already gotten Starfield this month. What an amazing month.
Yeah, and Sea of Stars.
And Sea of Stars. Well, Sea of Stars was technically August.
Whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna be Game Pass Gary for a minute. It was technically August.
Game Pass Gary.
Fuck Game Pass Gary.
Any artists out there, send your renders of Game Pass Gary, and then we'll feature them on the show.
He better be covered in Cheeto dust.
Oh no. When you say Game Pass Gary, I just imagine the guy from World of Warcraft episode of South Park.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I intend.
Yeah.
We do have one question tonight.
Yeah, Josh, hit me with it.
Tiger Jesus 64 wrote us and asked, what would you guys like to see from Starfield DLC? We kind of touched on this already. I want a couple new factions, which if it's a Bethesda game, you're going to get a few factions. Mm-hmm. I want them to introduce a new like not solar system, but introduce like a new planetary system with like a lot of stuff to do on every planet.
Yeah.
For one of the DLCs, I want a couple DLCs. Like I imagine you're probably going to get 4 or 5, with 3 of them being small, 2 being big.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to Bethesda DLCs, the gold standard is Shivering Isles
Oh man, Shivering
and
Isles.
Far Harbor.
Yeah.
Those are the two that I think of. And like Far Harbor was a completely like self-contained one.
Yeah.
I want a self-contained DLC. There, if you're gonna do one though, I think one with vehicle, like one that even lets you construct and man your own vehicles would be a huge win.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go for a smaller one, that would be a big one, especially if you put it out alongside like the mod tools for Creation Engine.
Yeah. By the way, did you see the mods that are turning Starfield into a Star Wars game?
I did. I secretly love it. I love that. I love seeing all the ships people are designing too. The Planet Express, the X-Wing, Star Destroyers, Millennium Falcons.
I saw a really cool B-Wing and a Y-Wing.
I saw the Normandy.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Just like, man. Then see that's what I want most on my ship is I want the crew to like, I want it to be like the Normandy.
Yeah.
That's what I want. It's just so great, except I'm sitting in Joker's seat. I want to see. I would love something similar to Nuka World. I think you could go like really crazy with the end of the Crimson Fleet storyline. Leaves it totally open to do something along the lines of Nuka World. So I think you could do something really fun there. Tie in a few of the other outlaws that you've encountered throughout. But the coolest thing about Nuka World was it lets you join the Raiders.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you do there. A House of Varun expansion feels like a given. The worshippers of the Great Serpent, not servant, serpent. That feels like it's going to have to be one.
Yeah, that sounds
like if that's not one, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? And I just need more fun followers. Like make it to where I can take some of the other Constellation members along, maybe as followers, but give me some people who aren't like as morally straight.
Yeah, we need that gray area.
We really do need the gray. I mean, like the best companion in Fallout 4 is Kate.
Yeah.
So like, give me some people like that. I would really love to see that. Like I've always been a fan of Dark Brotherhood in the Elder Scrolls games. Like I want
space vampires.
Not space vampires, but like I want like, and I mean like I would got to be like a space spy, I guess.
Yeah.
But like I want followers who are like in that morally ambiguous thing like me, because they're like, play the way that you want. Well, I selected Space Scoundrel and they don't like it when I'm like that. So when I'm like manipulating people and wheeling and dealing, they don't like that. Sarah's judging me in the corner.
Yeah.
So those are the things I'd like to see. There's no shortage of things you can do in a universe spanning game, but yeah, some suggestions if you haven't started working on it yet, Bethesda.
Yeah, I would like to see some cool like space combat style like missions where like, okay, there's these space pirates, they're trying to make their base on in this planetary system, and like I know there's probably some of that already, but like I want like some sort of massive like like you said, like a new system of planets to explore, but these space pirates have taken over the whole system and you gotta kind of like.
I would love to find a space station and have a storyline that takes me inside and outside of the space station. Like let me have to be like tethered to the space station and like fight on the outside in space. Like there are so many cool things that you could do there. Like maybe your ship is like barely like running next to you, but like your crew is manning the cannons for you or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
There's some really cool stuff you could, or like Vasco is like riding and is like out there with you and like just flying around shooting things. Like give me a mech suit to do that in, maybe. I don't know. Like there's some really cool things you could do.
Or Vasco is secretly a transformer and he could just be like some sort of.
Oh my god! If Vasco was a transformer, I would cry.
Oh man, cool. Well, Josh, I think we did it. Any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I think we've completely like exhausted ourselves on Starfield takes.
Yeah. Yeah, same. So I want to thank everybody for watching this episode of Xbox Casuals. You can find it every other Tuesday on your podcast service of choice. Josh, thank you for your time tonight, as always, and your knowledge and your gift to deliver the Starfield review discussion. Where can we find you?
Twitter at @Josh_Finn. I'm still there.
Still there.
I'm still there. I'm holding it down.
I'm technically still there, but I have not. Man, you can find me at I am Corey HD on social media sometimes. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe to the Tower Casuals YouTube channel. Join the Discord. Check out Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. If you're into Destiny, we'd love to have you there as well. And shout out to all the people who have been listening and growing our show. It's been really cool to see. So thank you so much for watching. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.